everyone, welcome to More Than Medals by Crossing the Line. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Hailey Danz today, an athlete who is not only fun, funny, and incredible at sport, but also a mentor in her community and such an exciting person to get to know. Hailey's story of resilience is so unique, and I can't wait for her to get to tell it to you herself. Without further ado, here's Hailey Danz.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to talk to you in general because we haven't really caught up since the games, but also just excited to have you here and share some of your story. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be talking to you.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. So I have the tiniest of introductions about you because I don't want to pretend like I can tell your story better than you, but just so that people have the first kind of highlights of who you are. Hailey Danz is a paratriathlete who competes in the PTS2 category. She's a 3-time Paralympic medalist with 2 silver medals and 1 gold medal, most recently in Paris 2024, which I'm super pumped to talk to you about. She's an 11-time world championship medalist, which I bet you probably don't know that number off the top of your head, but I looked it up and it's true. Hailey is originally from Wisconsin, from a place which I cannot say its name, so I won't. And now she's living in Colorado. And I wanted to, whenever you see a description of someone as like a bio, you always see them add like your interests or something about them. And when I tried to think of something for you, I tried to think of something that I didn't just pull from your bio. And so I don't know if you're like this, I think so. But when I think of you as a person, if I was like, what can help people to understand who Hailey is without meeting her? I think that to me, it's that you really bring people together. That's like, to me, the like outstanding thing about your personality is that like you're the person people go to when they're like, what are we doing for fun? Who's coming to this? Like, how are we going to enjoy this trip? Or like, you know, who's here? Introduce me to people. Like you're that person who brings people together in your friendships, I think. And so rather than saying that you're good at math or something, which is what's in Kendall Gush's bio, that's my fun fact about Hailey.
Wow,
So welcome. Hey.
I love that fun fact. Thank you. That's something that I like. Yeah, I really value. And so knowing that it is seen among other people that means a lot. So thank you.
Oh, of course. I'm glad you like it. Whenever you go to see something like it, you're like, I hope this hits the way I want it to. So maybe to start, I want to start at what maybe from a sports point of view is your most recent end to your sports story, which is your success in Paris 2024. We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah,
And so,
we really haven't.
no, and I feel like I got to see glimpses of it, but I would love to hear more about it from your point of view. Can you give me like a race rundown?
Whew, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I guess just for like a little bit of context, like, yeah, this race in Paris was something that I have been focused on for a very, very long time. I had been to 2 Paralympics prior, in Rio and in Tokyo, and I got the silver medal at both of those. In Rio, it was incredible. I was like absolutely thrilled. And then in Tokyo, it came as a little bit of a disappointment just because, I was really hoping to kind of get to that top step, and I felt like I came up short. And so, yeah, really ever since Tokyo, but really prior, even before that, like Paris has just been my, sole focus. And yeah, specifically winning gold in Paris was the sole focus. And I don't know, I think I had like a pretty challenging build up to it. I feel like over the course of my career, things have been like pretty, I don't want to say easy because, nothing in elite sport is easy, but like I haven't had any major setbacks or major challenges to deal with. And I feel like they all kind of hit me like in this quad going into Paris. So that was really, really challenging, but I also feel like it prepared me in a way that when I was in Paris, certainly there were those little moments of doubt or uncertainty, but largely my feeling while being there was just that I was prepared for anything because I knew I had put in all the work that I needed to. I have been so consistent over so long in my training. I have so much race experience just having done this for so long. And I just trust my body and my ability to, be able to respond in the right way no matter what's being thrown at me. So even though there was a lot of noise in Paris, and a lot of uncertainty just around the day that we're racing, race conditions,
Are
all
we
of that,
swimming?
like I despite all of that, I just really kind of came back to this mantra that I was prepared and that I had everything I needed to do what I needed to do. And so I mean, as you know, race day was chaotic, or really the couple days prior to race day were chaotic because I was supposed to race on September 1st, and I woke up that morning, and when I say that morning, I mean at 4 a.m., and it says that the race had been delayed a day due to water quality. And so, obviously my first thought was just disappointment because I was ready to go. We had been there for so long, and I was just like itching to go out and race. But then, I kind of thought to myself, this curveball is really going to mess with everybody. But if I can make it mess with me a little bit less than everyone else, and if I can ride the wave just a little bit better, then, I'm going to set myself up well. So I used that day. I did a little bit of training in the morning, but then I kind of looked at it as a bonus day. And so I went out, I left the village, I went into Paris, and I saw my family. And I got to spend a day with them that I didn't think that I would have. I really didn't think I'd be able to see them at all while they were there. And so it was just this really great opportunity for me to go and recenter and reconnect to something so much greater. And I know that I perform the best when I, am able to be pretty chill and not be so hyper-focused and take things too seriously. But also when I feel connected to something bigger than just me. I feel like being able to go and spend the day with my family really allowed me to do that. And so, the next morning when I woke up and found out the race was on, I don't know, I felt like I was in a better spot then than I was the day before. And so, I mean, really from the moment that I got on the bus to head down to the venue, I just I was in such good spirits, and I was so excited to be racing, which was cool because it had been a really challenging summer leading into it, and I did feel very burnt out. I feel like there were so many times where I just said, I just want this to be over. I'm not having fun in training anymore. The pressure is feeling so much. I just want this to be over. And so, reflecting back on race day and just the way that I felt in my warm up and going into everything, I just think it's so cool that I was able to turn all of that around and be so happy to be there and really feel like I was racing from a place of gratitude. I felt like I was just able to honor all of the time that I did put into it. And it felt like a celebration rather than, what I feared it would feel like, which was just another thing to get through. I feel like
That's
rambling.
so amazing. That makes me so happy to hear you say that. No, I think that's so lovely. And for yourself, especially having gone through multiple games, how rare that feeling is. People talk to you and they're like, just feel grateful on the day, feel this, do this, but you don't get to decide that necessarily, or it's a lot of work to get to that place where you actually feel just grateful to be there. That's such an amazing thing. I'm so glad that was your games experience, and then that's what resulted in, to me, what seems like your most successful games. I think you would probably say the same, but I don't want to speak for you.
I would say the same. Yeah. And to be fair, I think that I absolutely approached the previous two races from a place of gratitude. I think the difference this time around was that I had that gratitude, but I also had a confidence that I don't think I had leading into the other two. And that confidence certainly came with this side of like, this is sport at the highest level and anything can happen. And I do, have to be prepared for any outcome. But I kind of just knew deep down that, like, again, the outcome wasn't guaranteed, but I knew that I had what I needed, just given everything that I had gone through to get there. I had everything I needed, that no matter what was thrown at me, like, I would know how to react. And so it was just kind of like a cool combination of having both of those things.
What do you think? It sounds like you trusted yourself a ton going into these
Yeah.
games, which I think is like such a cool thing to be able to do, and more rare than a person thinks, like to really trust that you knew what to do. Do you think there's anything about like your prep for these games or your environment leading into these games that made you build that trust that maybe hadn't always been there or that was different this time around?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think you're right. Like I don't know. I feel like we hear it all the time. Like, oh, you just have to believe in yourself, and you're like, yeah, I do. And it's like, but to truly, truly, deep in your bones, believe like that. I don't think that can just come. I actually do think that has to be earned, and I think that it or earned might be the wrong word, but developed. And so I do feel like I really just drew on, my 12 years in the sport. And just this idea that I show up every single day, even when I don't want to, even when I'm not feeling good, even when I'm like, still really tired from the day before, I show up and I do what I need to do. And I think that when you do that day after day after day after day for a decade, it's kind of impossible not to build this trust that like, yeah, even when I'm might not be 100%, my body knows what to do and it can still get the job done. And I think that because I did that in training so often for so many years, like it just kind of naturally developed into this trust I had on race day. But, I think that, our minds are finicky little things, and in a high pressure environment like the games, like it's so easy to kind of forget about that trust and think about or just get caught up in all the noise and caught up in all the doubt. And there was certainly plenty of that. And I think that's actually where I really benefited from being around other people who believed in me so wholeheartedly. My coach, my girlfriend, my teammates, my sports psych, my whole support staff. Like, I just feel like anytime I ever articulated a feeling of doubt, everyone was just like, oh no, but you've got this. Like and they reminded me of all the work that I've done. And they said like, we know you can do this and we believe in you so strongly. And I think just if one person had said it, it might not have meant much, but hearing it so frequently from so many different people who saw different sides of my preparation, I think all of that compounded. And I was like, okay, no, like if all of these people see it and believe it, like I have to too.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think when you build those relationships with people, you're like, I trust you, even at the times when I'm not sure that I trust me. And if you
Yeah,
trust me, then maybe that's enough for that moment
totally.
of doubt.
Totally.
That's so
And that is
exciting.
one
I
thing that
love,
I think is really special about the relationships I do have in sport, like with both teammates and my staff. Like, they don't blow smoke and they don't lie to me, and they're only going to say things that they think are true. And so, yeah, I definitely took it that way. Like, well, if you're saying this, I know that it's real and you're not just trying to make me feel
yeah.
better.
I feel like that's actually something that stands out to me when you say like I believed in myself. Like I feel like people kind of like blindly say like you should believe in yourself, and it's almost
Mhm.
like it's said like if you believe in yourself you can do things. And sure, but I think there's a caveat there. Like I think that you have to have that evidence that you can do
Mhm.
the thing that you're trying to do. And it feels like that's what you did, that you took evidence from everything you'd previously done. And you were almost like when you look at a study or when you make a scientific decision, you're like, the evidence says, yes, I can do this. And you
Yeah,
had so much evidence that you could do it. And so just that extra little thing is then to believe in yourself when you have the evidence that says, I'm
exactly. That's
right.
very well said. Yeah.
That's so exciting. I love to hear you talk about this. I feel like it's so much more interesting when you ask an athlete what their games experience is like or to describe their race. A lot of people will be like, the swim was this, the bike was this, the run
Yeah.
was this. And it's so interesting to hear you talk actually more about like the mental performance side and how you're feeling going into the event and how that shaped what happened.
So I think one of the things that I was like the most concerned about going into this race was the swim because it was the talk of the town, just with the current. We weren't sure at first if we were going to be swimming upstream, downstream, or if it was all going to be downstream. And it was a very nuanced course. And so I think I took a risk by doing the swim fam just because, the swim familiarization, just because the water quality wasn't great when we did it. But I think me doing that, it gave me some more of
More
that.
evidence.
Exactly. Evidence of like, okay, this is what we do. That being said, the actual swim in the race was far more challenging than I anticipated. Going out was a breeze, but yeah. And I think I nailed the turn coming around the buoy, which was like pretty critical, but coming back, I was working so hard and I felt pretty confident that I was going to be able to, break away from a lot of the field, and that did not happen. So when I came out of the water, I came out with a pack of 3 other girls who I was not expecting to be there, and it's funny because I was complimented by a couple people afterwards for like not panicking in that moment because it wasn't really part of my plan. But looking back on it, like I don't even think that like I had time to panic or process because I was already like
Yeah.
thinking about the next thing.
On to the
Which is
next.
yeah, exactly. And so the bike is where I knew I would excel. I spent a lot of time really just trying to improve my bike handling and ability to take technical turns with a lot of speed. Because I've always been a strong cyclist and I've been able to power through, but that technical part was not as much of a strength of mine. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time really trying to get better there, and it paid off because the bike section was where I was able to just get ahead of everyone and every lap just create a bigger and bigger gap. And so, I started the run and I knew that I had a pretty good lead. But that was also the place that I was at in Tokyo. I thought I came off the bike with a huge lead and I thought that the race was mine and I might have started celebrating a little bit too early. And so, yeah, after I did get past in Tokyo and ended up getting second, I knew that I would never do that again. So I came off the bike with the gap that I wanted, maybe a little bit more, but I, not for 1 second, was about to let off the gas. And so I went out on the first mile of the run like crazy hard. And was excited about how good I felt. And then, yeah, about like halfway into the run, I started to feel my leg cramp up a little bit. And I was like, okay, this is not good. And so I kind of had to like back off the pace a little bit, but still stay on the gas. And so I'm kind of riding that line of like, okay, this pace feels sustainable. I don't think I'm going to like do any more harm. And I think it's still fast enough to hold everyone off. But it was a scary place to be because, I'm getting splits every twice a lap with where my competitors are in relation to me. But just because I knew I was slowing down, I wasn't sure how much I could like really trust that information. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think I did kind of settle into the sweet spot, but I was certainly running scared just because I didn't know what was going on behind me. And then on the last lap of the run, on that like outbound section, we had our physiologist, Jeff, who was standing there. And it was a great part of the course because the whole run course was like packed with people.
Wow.
And that was like the one section where there weren't a ton of people, so you could actually hear people like say stuff. And so, at that point in the race, there was like a little less than a kilometer left. And Jeff gave me a split, and he like locked eyes with me and was like, "You're gonna win it." Like,
Oh my God.
the math is, no one can make up this
It's a
math
fact
right
at
now.
this point. Yeah.
You got it. Like, go enjoy the finish. And so that
amazing.
was when I feel like I was able to like let my guard down a little bit and really just take in that final stretch, which was incredible because it was just packed with people. And there were little patches where I could like kind of see like, oh, I think this is my family, or I think this is like some teammates.
Someone's screaming my name.
Yeah. And so I was really just able to kind of like, lock eyes with as many people as I could and just like take it all in. And
That's so lovely.
it was. It was certainly, because again, I feel like it's so rare to be, so often in racing, like, it is down to the very end. So the fact that I was able to kind of like have that last couple of minutes to really just take it all in, it was very special.
That's so amazing. Oh, so exciting. I love it so much. And I feel like it was so deserved. And it's so exciting when you feel like things come together in that way, where you actually get to have that moment to look back and be like, this whole thing was worth it, maybe. Is that how you felt? Did you feel like it was worth it?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard because, it's. My short answer is yes, it was. Because, it was so much more than that one moment. Like it was the culmination of years and years and years. But like, when I think back on it, it's interesting because I don't know if you agree with this, but I think that in this sport, there are a lot more lows than there are highs.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think, and there are certainly high moments, and just the times that we share with teammates, like all of that is absolutely incredible. But there are a lot of like really, really hard parts, and sometimes I think it's hard to reconcile it sometimes because I think there are more lows than highs, and I think that sometimes the lows hurt more than the highs ever feel. Like when I think about the devastation that I felt in Tokyo, like the intensity of that emotion was probably like a little bit more intense than the joy that I felt in Paris, and I think that is a very, very unfortunate reality.
Yeah,
That
I
being
get that.
said, I'm comparing like two moments in time. But like, the result in Paris, I think it has taken so long for it to actually sink in. And I think that the more that time passes and the more things do sink in, the intensity of the joy might not be quite as large, but I think the feeling of just like satisfaction is so much greater. And so I think that I was expecting just like intense happiness, which like I certainly did feel, but I think that what's even more rewarding is just this idea that I set out to do something. I faced a lot of setbacks and challenges along the way, but I also gained these incredible relationships. I learned so much about myself, and I got the result that I wanted, and the result that I fought for. I don't know. I just think there's the sense of fulfillment that I get from that. I think is probably one of the greatest things that I'll ever experience.
I think that makes a lot of sense to hear you say that. And I think people ask me, I had a good result at the games, not as good as yours. But I think people ask me, like, oh, were you just on top of the world? Did you stay on top of the world? Are you so happy all the time? And one of the kind of funny things about it is like at that moment, you're just so exhausted and
Yeah.
it's over. And then you're like, now what? Like, what have I done? Like, I did all of
Mhm.
this for this. And in that moment, I don't think your body is like in the right state to just feel joy. Like you're
Totally.
tired and you're surrounded by your competitors who like a lot of them had a really bad day. And so you're in this
Mhm.
weird place where you're like I'm supposed to be, maybe you have a lot of expectation as well as how happy you're supposed to feel or what you're like you sort of compare like wanting to be as happy as you were disappointed, which I feel like
Yeah.
again like it's a lot of pressure to feel a certain way and in that moment you don't always feel exactly the way that people watching sort of expect.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of
No,
sense to
definitely.
me.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear more about what brought you to this place. Sort of the theme of this series of podcasts is more than medals. So we're trying to get to know like people rather than just their success stories.
Yeah.
And so when you were growing up, were you athletic? Like has sport always been part of your life?
Yes, definitely. Sports, I feel like always were, yeah, just something that came easily to me and was something that I really enjoyed. And so, yeah, as a young kid, like that was a very big part of my identity. Um, and then, yeah, I was diagnosed with bone cancer in my leg right below the knee when I was 12. And that was certainly a curveball because, not only did I, have to take all this time away from my real life to go through chemotherapy treatment, but, it was in a part of my body that was going to impact my ability to be an athlete and do all the things that I loved. And so, yeah, I had a series of very big surgeries that pretty much left my leg completely useless. Like I wasn't able to bend my knee or really bear a whole lot of weight through it. So I was on crutches for, a couple of years. And yeah, it was really tough because I was like, I kept going to physical therapy and, we were trying everything we could to like get my leg to be functional again. And nothing that I was doing was working. And so I was just like, oh man, like this is so tough because like I identify so much as being an athlete and being strong and capable. And I feel like I have this thing that I just like can't overcome. And so around that time, when I was like 13, I went to a camp for kids with cancer. And when I was there, I saw a bunch of kids that were amputees, and they were just doing so much. They were playing sports. They were so much more mobile than I was, and so I was able to talk to them about the decision that they made to have an amputation and what their life was like now, if they regretted it. And my main takeaway from all of that was just that my quality of life was going to be so much better as an amputee than it was going to be with the leg that I had. So I came home and I told my parents that I wanted to have my leg amputated.
Oh my
And
goodness. At
yeah, yeah.
13. It's hard to
Yeah, no, I
imagine
guess I was
13 year
14.
olds, 14-year-olds year
Yeah,
olds having
14.
this kind of conversation. Like it seems like this is such a, I mean, out of necessity, obviously, but it's such a mature
Yeah,
conversation to be having at that age.
totally, totally. Yeah, I know. I feel like, I was forced to grow up so much, just,
Yeah.
from being diagnosed at 12 to then even at 14. Like I felt like I was so much more of an adult than I should have been.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I think my parents understood that too. Because, I've heard of plenty of other kids that have been in similar situations as me, and they told their parents that they wanted amputation. And to be clear, like this was back in 2005. And I feel like back then, amputation was seen as like an absolute last resort. Like you only
Mhm.
do it if that's your only option. Um, and so I think yeah, a lot of other kids that I talked to, like they, experienced a lot of sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not backlash, but parents and doctors kind of like trying to talk them out of it, of like, this is not the right decision.
Right.
Like we have to keep doing everything we can to save the leg. And fortunately, I think my parents knew that, I was a very thoughtful kid, and I wasn't just going to come to them with some, wild thought that I haven't like fully processed. And so, we did go and we got another opinion from, another surgeon, and he also was pretty in favor of amputation for quality of life. And so, once we kind of did all of that, my parents were fully supportive, and I just went for it. So, that was when I was 14, 2005. And, just a couple months after the amputation, I learned how to downhill ski on one leg. And that was, absolutely incredible. I felt like it was just so liberating, especially doing like a sport as extreme as skiing. I just felt like I was able to kind of transcend, my disability and just like go fast. And that was like such an empowering feeling. But, other than skiing, I feel like a lot of the other sports that I was attempting were sports that I had done prior to my amputation. And that was really tough because they were things that I was really good at before. And then going back to them post amputation, it's like, well, I can't jump as high. I can't run as fast. Like same. I don't have the agility or the, the skills that I had before. I just felt very limited. And I think that's, why skiing appealed to me, is because it was something like totally different. So I feel like in high school, I kind of just like struggled to really find a sport that I connected with. And, at that point, again, it was like the mid 2000s. Adaptive sport is not what it is today. The only para sport that I knew about was wheelchair basketball.
Oh, it starts there.
Right. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that because like I don't use a wheelchair. Like I can walk. I want to use like the leg that I have. And so I was just like, well, I guess para sport just isn't for me because like there's not a place for me. Which, God, looking back on that now is like
That's so
wild.
sad to think of like little you thinking that when they're like I feel
So
like
much.
now there so clearly is a place for you, but I don't
Yeah.
think that it's like a unique experience, especially back then, that you just hadn't come across the right thing and it didn't find you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know. I look at this like the landscape now. And I feel like even in triathlon, like there's this cohort of like 16 to 18-year-olds that all do triathlon, and they're all like best friends, because they go to these triathlon
So
camps like
awesome.
every couple months and they get to hang out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm so jealous because I wish that I had that when I was that age, but like it is so cool to think that we've come this far so that that's able to exist. Um,
Do you feel proud when you think about that? Because I don't know whether you would like consciously attribute this to yourself, but I think that having you as a role model in the triathlon community is part of the reason why that stuff exists. When you see those kids, do you feel that at all?
I I don't. And honestly, like hearing you say that, I think is a really nice reminder because I do forget that, yeah, this younger generation of kids are looking to me and you and our teammates like as the aspiration. Yeah, I don't think it's something that I think about. Maybe because it's not something that I had, and so it's not necessarily as salient for me. But Yeah, no, that's a good reminder. It's
I think for me, it was so recently that I would came into the sport and would look at people like you and Kendall and the people who were already in it and be like, oh my gosh, look what they're doing. So I feel like I don't, I guess because I looked at you like that, so I don't forget that people look at you like that. But I
yeah.
bet
Oh,
it's harder to see yourself that way as like a person who, if you had existed in the past for yourself, you would have been a very big difference maker, I think.
yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
Of course. So you're trying different sports. You're not sure you've necessarily found the right thing. You're in high school at this point, and then you went
Yeah.
to college, right?
Yeah, and then I went to college. I went
What
to
did you study?
Northwestern.
I don't know this.
Oh, I studied psychology.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so, yeah, college was interesting for me because I feel like in high school, you know, I went to a fairly small school where, my class was 300 people, but like everyone like kind of knew me and
Hmm.
knew my story. And so when I had an amputation, like it wasn't all that shocking, you know? Um, and so it was like a fairly easy transition yeah, all my friends were just like very cool about it. And so going to college, I actually feel like that was the first time that I actually had to process the loss of my leg and how that reconciled with the rest of my identity. Um, because yeah, it was being in college, like that was the first time that I was meeting people that didn't know my story and didn't know how to act around me. And
You
so
had to
I
like
just,
explain yourself almost for the first time.
exactly, exactly. And so, I mean, I feel like going to college is already like super hard, but then
Hmm.
having that kind of on top of it, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Oh.
And so I like really hated my first couple of years of college, because I was just kind of, I don't think I was like fully aware of it at the time, but I was definitely like,
You're feeling
yeah,
really different.
processing all of that trauma like
Yeah.
5 years later. Um, and so, um, yeah, I don't know. I just like I was struggling and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then, it was this, let's see, I was going into my junior year and I was looking for like a summer internship. And I don't know, I think I was just like doing a bunch of Googling and I found this adaptive sports nonprofit that was local to where I was. And I was like, oh wow, they actually have like more than just wheelchair basketball. There's like kayaking and cycling and like all these other things. Like that's kind of cool. Like it would be fun to work there. Um, and so I reached out to the programs coordinator there, Carrie Sirota, and I scheduled an interview with her. And so Carrie's a triathlete, and she had just formed a little side project called Dare to Try, which would go on to become the nation's first paratriathlon club in the U.S. Um, but it was like in its infancy stages at the time. But yeah, so I interviewed with Carrie, and she was like, "All right, yeah, like I'll hire you, but you have to understand that if you're going to work for me, like you're going to do a triathlon." And I was like, well, "That's a lot." um, but so triathlon had always been one of those things that like I said I wanted to do. It was on my bucket list, mainly because I just thought that it was like the epitome of badassery. And like I just yeah, I thought triathletes were just like,
The
I
coolest.
put them in such high regard and I thought like, well, yeah, if I can do that,
So
like
athletic.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I felt really similar. People ask me why triathlon, and my response is always that it was like the least likely thing that someone would say a wheelchair user was going to do, and that is
Yeah.
what I thought was cool about it. That I
Yeah.
was like, you think I can't do this?
Totally. Like
Something about it
why
now seems cooler.
yeah, exactly. Like let's go for the most extreme thing.
Skiing and
Um
triathlon. It's like kind of a theme you have going on here.
yeah, right. um Yeah, so again, I was always kind of like, oh yeah, this is something that I would like to do, but I think it was one of those bucket list items that was on there, but I had no intention of actually doing it.
The
Because
steps
like,
weren't there.
yeah, because yeah, like I didn't have a bike, I didn't have a running leg, I knew how to survive in the water, but I didn't swim competitively and like didn't know like real swimming. Um, and so, yeah, I told Carrie all of that when she pitched that to me, and she was like, "Well, no, that's like why
Okay.
we're here. Like, I can introduce you to someone who makes running legs, and like I can get you a program bike, and we'll teach you how to swim. Like, that's easy." And I was like, "Okay, well, like you kind of just took every barrier that I had ever created for myself and just shoot, took them away. So now I kind of have to
No
do this."
objections left.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and so, yeah, that was kind of how it all started. I didn't have formal background in any of it. I picked it up all at once, and the rest is history.
It's amazing. It's such a funny story of a start in a sport where you were just like kind of ushered into it. I feel
Yeah,
like triathlon is kind of like that. Like, I don't know if people pursue it or if it kind of just finds you.
yeah,
That's how I feel like
yeah.
it just
I
sort of
think that's
comes
so
to you and you're
true.
like, oh, here we are.
Totally, totally. When I think you see it so often with, yeah, people that like, oh, I was like a runner and like that was such a huge part of my life. And then, yeah, the triathletes just kind of find them and then yeah, I don't know. It's certainly a common story.
I think too, like the people and the culture is one of the big appeals in triathlon that you kind of
Yeah,
get pulled in by the energy of the people who are like,
for sure.
just like we can do this people rather than people who are like, oh, here's wheelchair basketball because you're disabled and this is the thing you should do. They're like,
For
no, what do
sure.
you want to do? Here's something that seems like a challenge, but we don't care about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's an interesting breed of people, and it definitely takes a certain personality. But yeah, I love it.
I love that.
I love that type, and it's
Yeah.
fun to be surrounded by that.
Do you
I feel
remember
like
your
I
first
don't know.
race?
Sometimes I'm like, what's it going to be like going into like the real world after this? Because we are so used to being surrounded by these like such high achieving, like highly motivated people that yeah, like I don't really know what the next.
I think that in the regular world, you will be uncomfortable by how people respond to you. Like people, I think,
Yeah,
will be so amazed by you, and you'll be like, I'm not sure how to deal with that.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
How was your first race? Do you remember it? Do you have like a
Mm,
distinct memory of
mhm.
it?
I do. I signed up for it like probably way before I should have. Because yeah, like I had that interview with Carrie in February, and so I think yeah, I got a running leg within the next couple of months. But then I didn't get on a bike until like June. Yeah, that was funny because you know, I hadn't ridden a bike in like 8 years. And I got on for the
Is it
first time
like
as an
riding a
amputee.
bike, like
And
they
it was like
say?
riding a bike. Yeah, I was just like, oh,
No.
okay. Like I know how to do this.
Oh, that's
um,
hilarious.
yeah, yeah.
Is that,
Uh,
do you think that's like is that a common experience, or do you think that was maybe because you're more athletic or like you're adapted?
yeah.
I'll have to ask other people,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
do a
I don't
survey.
know. Well, because also, like, I had kind of tried riding a bike with my normal walking leg, and that
That's
just doesn't
harder.
really work very well. So yeah, it was like once I had the right equipment to do it,
Mm, that
it
makes
clicked.
sense.
I think amputees that don't have that experience are probably not on like the right equipment, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I started riding in June, and then my first race was in July. And so, yeah, I don't think I was necessarily, or I wasn't as prepared for it as I wish I would have been looking back. But I also kind of am of the mindset of just like, you don't have to be ready because like you're never gonna be fully ready for anything. And so, like, might as well just just go all in and do it. So, I mean, to be clear, like having a little bit of preparation is important because I did not enjoy that first race because I wasn't ready for it. And yeah, it was a sprint distance, but it was far more than I had ever done.
It's not short.
And yeah, I was not having a good time until I got to the finish chute. And, I am running down the finish line and I'm seeing all of these, amazing people that I had met over the last few months who are in the triathlon club and who helped me get there. And yeah, just crossing the finish line and feeling this like deep, deep, deep sense of accomplishment. That feeling I loved. And I think I was able to then just forget everything that had just happened and the 2 hours of misery that I just been through. And like all I could think of was like that feeling and how I wanted to feel that again. And so, yeah, I kind of decided to start leveling up my training and doing more so that I could keep crossing finish lines and, hopefully make the process a little bit more enjoyable. And yeah, that's kind of where I went from there.
And it was just a couple of years after that you won your first world title. It's a pretty big
Yeah,
rise.
I think it was 2 years after. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. And so at that point, I got into the sport probably at the perfect time. My first race was in 2011. My first world championship was 2013. But it really was in that time frame that triathlon was really starting to take off. I think it was in 11 that it was announced that paratri was going to be contested in Rio at the Paralympics for the first time. So there was all this momentum and excitement around it, but I still got in pretty early. Now breaking into the scene is so difficult, as you know. And just like getting the points that you need to even get a race start is like super challenging. But yeah, back when I was getting into it, it was a lot easier. And so, yes, I think some of that like very early success just came from the fact that like we were in our very early stages as a sport.
You were developing as the sport was developing kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool though. I feel like those athletes who were like the early adopters of triathlon, it's such a cool experience to kind of like the sport fully grew with you. Like you were like the first athletes to go to the games, the first athletes to figure out like what this whole thing was about and how it was going to be done. So there's something like, I know you say that maybe it felt less competitive at the time, but I think in some ways when it's been clearly outlined how you do something, there's something that makes that easier as well. When someone has done it before you and has said like, this is kind of the training, you have someone to copy.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of challenges that come along with being the first ones to sort of show like, this is how we do this thing at a time when I think you probably got more pushback and hesitation about the sport of triathlon than we have now that it's more established.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Because like I think that we still are, because we're still pretty young in the grand scheme of things. And I feel like, we're still kind of trying to figure out, like, what is the best way for an above-knee amputee to run? What is the best way to ride a bike? Like, we're doing all that dirty work that hopefully, years from now, like
standard.
there's a standard and people just know how to do it. But I think, because I got in so early and developed with the sport, I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome for a really long time, because it was like, well, no, the only reason why like I'm good at this is because like there aren't that many people doing it and like it's a new sport and all this stuff. And that followed me for a really, really long time. And I feel like it's really only been in the last few years that I'm like, okay, like early on, that 2013 World Championship, like there weren't a lot of people there, but I did it then. But then I've also been able to, keep growing as the sport has grown and as the level of competition has gotten so much harder. I've been able to stay on.
Yeah, you're
top.
still right
like,
there.
It's not a fluke. Like I have, the success that I've had actually does feel deserved, whereas I think in the past it hasn't. But it took me a long time to kind of accept that,
I spoke to someone recently who had gone to the games for para athletics years ago, like in 92. And she was talking about how all of the medals at that time kind of felt like they had that same asterisk, like they were like,
Mhm.
oh, but it's in para. And I thought
Yeah.
it was so interesting to hear someone say that because I don't know about you, but I don't, coming from being an able-bodied athlete who obviously was never going to go to the Olympics to now competing as a para athlete, I don't really feel like there's an asterisk beside competing in the Paralympics. Does it feel
Yeah.
different for you, or does it surprise you to hear someone that people would say that people would say like in 92 their medals didn't feel comparable?
I think I can no, I can relate to that feeling just because,
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah, I've been there. Um, that being said, I don't necessarily feel that way now. Like I
yeah,
think that a medal in Paris is a medal in Paris. I think
yeah.
that we are developed enough as a sport that, it is cutthroat, it's legit, it's, yeah, you have to be on absolute the absolute top if you're even going to be there. So
Yeah, that's super
yeah,
cool. I love to see the sport developing in that way.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
no, it's been very cool to
in
see.
Yeah, no, totally agree. In researching you for this article, it was actually really fun because I feel like you never Google your friends like this. And so
Yeah,
there's like
right.
things about you that I like have heard you mention or like sort of talk about, but I never got to like really hear some of your perspectives on them. And you wrote a really lovely article in 2022. And in it, you talk about sort of discovering that you were gay and being excited to talk about that for the first time as an athlete. And I read that and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful and so you present to me as someone who's so confident. And I think maybe it's because you're funny. Funny people seem confident.
It's
I
the
don't know.
trauma.
And so it was interesting to read that and be like, oh, wow, there was a time when she maybe didn't feel this way. Do you
Mhm.
want to talk at all about that article?
Oh wow, yeah, that's so kind of you to say because I feel like you're not the first person that says that, but I feel like so unconfident for so much of the time. Which I guess that's just
I think
human
that's just being
conditioning.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, no, and I mean, I think it kind of goes along with the theme of like being among the first. Um, there just like weren't really any gay triathletes, you know? And certainly, yeah, there were in sport, and I think, being able to see other out athletes like that really helped me sort of um yeah, like process that part of my identity because I think it was unfortunately something that I was just very ashamed of for a really long time, and I didn't want to own. And I think part of that just comes from like, I have a disability. I'm part of a very marginalized group already. Like I don't want one more marginalized identity on top of that. Like one's enough. um, and so yeah, I mean, being able to accept it myself and then also being able to be out, like I think that was just something that I struggled with much much more than I wish I had to. And I think part of that is also just like the time that it was. I think that even 5 or 10 years later it would have been much much easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so much of my sort of acceptance around being gay just came from seeing out athletes, but also just, regular people who were able to live their lives and, find love and have families and be successful and across like all different realms of the workforce. And yeah, that helped me so much. Because yeah, I don't know. I think I might have said in that article, like, I referenced the hate that gay people often get anytime they like do disclose that they're gay. Like, oh, we should keep being gay out of sport because like it's not
Yeah.
about that. And
Why
it's
is it
like,
relevant is what people would
yeah,
say.
And it's
I
like,
actually noticed that comment, and I feel like I'm so glad you said that because when people talk about me as an athlete, my husband is my handler, and he is
yeah,
always in the story, and that's lovely and it's beautiful. We have a lot of cute shots together, and like people talk about, I feel like half of the time when people talk about media about my story, it's about love, which,
yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
cute and I'm happy with. That's fine. But why then? Can you talk about that for me and my husband, but you shouldn't talk about that for you and your girlfriend? I completely disagree. I think that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should also be able to celebrate the love that fuels you in sport if you want to.
absolutely, absolutely. Because yeah, I mean, and yeah, just I, my girlfriend's name is Haley, which is hilarious. Sidebar: when I first met Scott, um, I think for the first 3 days that I was around him, he thought that I was talking in the third person, which is super awkward because I was probably saying very complimentary things about like, "Oh, Haley is so great." She's like, like Coca
I
Cola.
love it. It's so Scott to like not ask for
I
clarification on that,
know.
just to be like, okay.
Yeah, this feels
Like
weird,
I
but
feel like
okay.
anyone else would be like, wait, just to be clear, are you meaning to speak about yourself? And you
Right?
could be like, absolutely not.
Oh, I know. I
I
know.
love that that went on for days. I feel like
Days.
in the end I had to be like, wait, you're really not understanding this.
It's so funny. Oh, so
Awesome.
funny. Yeah. But no, yeah, I said in that article, like, everyone always says, like, talking about there's no place for it in sport, and my whole thing was like, but it is, because as gay people, we get messages all the time that say that, like, we are less than and we don't matter. And it is all of the out people that came before me that like allowed me to accept who I am and become this confident. And so like until all this other stuff changes, like sorry guys, but there is a place for
It
it in
needs to be
sport
said.
because like yeah, I think that sport is such a great vehicle for social change, and people do look to this sort of sphere, um and so, yeah, I think to all the haters, that's what I say. But
Yeah.
yeah, just to get back to, you know, love having a place in the story. Like, I don't know. I I started dating Haley. We've been together for about a year now, and I feel like she is also kind of just looking at like my Paralympic career, and how it did all kind of culminate in Paris. Like, I don't think it's coincidence. I think she had a lot to do with that. Just because she was really my rock through all of that, and through all of that, the highs and lows of elite sport that we sort of talked about. She was just always so steady, and so I'd be swinging from like you know high to low or whatever, but I had this anchor through all of it where I just felt like I could emotionally regulate, and I could like do what I needed to do, and that was something I hadn't really had before, and so yeah, that I feel like that made a really big difference just in how everything played out.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important to say because you don't, when people look at an athlete and people want to know, I think people probably ask you all the time, like, what makes you successful? How do you perform at this elite level? How do you meet all the demands? And I feel like it's unfair if you don't get to acknowledge that part of that was accepting yourself and then finding this great partner who was going to support you and make it possible. So
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you guys. I think you're the
Oh,
cutest.
oh, thank
I
you.
also saw that you guys got a tandem recently, which I
Oh
think
my
is
God.
absolute bomb.
Isn't it? We're
How's
so
that been?
excited about
Have you
it.
been able to ride?
It hasn't been quite nice enough. We've taken it out a couple of times, and yeah, of course, whatever we do, like there's all sorts of comments about it, which is just great. We love it. It's
Yeah.
more of a commuting bike, so yeah,
Hmm.
our goal is to be like known around the neighborhood as just yeah,
The
the
cutest
the
couple around.
exactly.
I think that would be a great vehicle for a croissant tour next time we're
Oh my
there.
God, yes. Well, that's actually like the primary use for it. The one of the few times that we took it out. Well, two of the times were
Hiking
to
to
like go to
cafes.
Howie's house to watch his cats, and the other time was to go get pastries from the bakery. So
I love it. I love it. What a
yeah,
great life.
yeah.
So maybe you hate this question because I feel like this is around the time that people hate this question, but do you have a sense of what's next for you?
Ooh, not a one.
Perfect. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm yeah. So with where I sit right now, I think on the one hand, like I feel like I've accomplished what I want to in this sport, and so it would be very easy for me to kind of just, you know, call it at that. But I also know that I still really, really love it, and I don't think I'm ready to just walk away because, I just can't imagine like spending a summer not with like you and Kendall and Emmy, like, you know, I'm not
Not
ready
doing
to
this.
like not have those fun times. But I have been pursuing this at 100% for the last many years, and I do think I am ready to have it take up a little bit less of my space. And so I think I want to continue doing the sport, but I also want to start pursuing other things. Maybe start building a career, and just having a little bit more balance than I've had in the past. So,
Yeah, I feel like that's something that a lot of people are looking forward to after the games, and especially after having such a long career. It feels
yeah.
like the hardest part in sport sometimes for me is like the things that you're not doing while you're doing it, not so
Mhm.
much just what it's like to do it, because you do miss a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And you get so much, and so like I don't often like see it as like a sacrifice or whatever, but now that
Yeah.
like I have had some downtime and I haven't been operating at that level, I'm like, oh, it actually is kind of nice to just pursue this a little bit more casually and have other things. So
Yeah, I found when I took some time off after Paris, I was like, what do people do with their time? Like, I almost didn't really remember.
right.
And I found myself like talking to my friends and being like, so when you're done work, like, then what do you do? And then what? And then
So
what?
funny.
Because I'm like, I actually don't know.
Right.
That's
That's
so
funny.
funny. Okay, well, this was amazing. I'm so excited to see what's next for you and for Haley riding your cute little tandem all around town.
Oh, thank you.
And I will hopefully see you at some races in the future, if not before then.
Yeah. Yeah, come visit. Come to Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna thank you so much for coming to this podcast. It was really fun to have you. And I feel like I learned a lot, and it's so nice for people to get the opportunity to get to know you because I think you're a very cool person.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Thank you so much for listening to More Than Medals today. Today we talked with Hailey Danz, who is an amazing athlete, a great friend of mine, and a person you should definitely follow along with. You can follow Hailey Dan's story on her Instagram at HailstormUSA, where you'll catch lots of pictures and videos of her riding with her girlfriend, whose name's also Hailey, and also see every incredible snag that fuels her on her journey. Follow along with Hailey on her journey towards paratriathlon, maybe 2028 Paralympics, and whatever else life brings her.